guy, and imagine being Harry Maguire. It honestly must be a baffling experience. On one hand, you're a guy who earns over £200,000 a week. Yeah, the guy probably earns more in 1 week than J.K. Rowling. And there's probably about 10,000 Hermione dolls sold in China every day. To look at him, you would think someone like Maguire probably works as a mechanic, lives in a 2-bedroom flat with his mum, and is probably one of these unlucky blokes who got married to his sister at age 16. But no, the guy is actually an uber successful multi-millionaire footballer with bags of cash coming out his nose. But on the other hand, is he proud? What happens if his mum Googles his name online? The guy is a meme, a walking joke, a football punchline. And I'm gonna say this, he needs that to stop. The guy turns 30 years old in March. Just quit Manchester United and get out now. Isn't he sick of having to wear a baseball cap every time he goes down the shops? I mean, sure, he's probably the autograph hunters begging for a selfie, but he's also at serious risk of having an angry mank screaming at him that he's about as much use as a pizza smeared in soap. By now, the guy must have self-esteem so low that even he's terrified of the mirror. I'm gonna say this, Maguire has never been a horrible player. I mean, some of his performances in the Man United shirt, yeah, they do make him look like some obscure centre-half dragged in from the Maltese league on loan. Honestly, half the time, he looks like he wouldn't start for Valletta FC. I mean, honestly, his showing in that 6-1 defeat to Spurs, he really did look like a trialist who just snuck onto the pitch just 20 minutes after stuffing his face with cheeseburgers and rum. He waddled about like a pigeon who just flown into a wall. It was like watching Haggard in a football shirt with all the balance of Captain Jack Sparrow. I actually think all of this is unfair. Harry Maguire was never supposed to sign for Manchester United. And I mean, chucking a nearly £90 million transfer fee and giving him a captain's armband that was once worn by Roy Keane, it was always going to make this guy look more out of his depth than, I don't know, casting Danny DeVito as the lead in Magic Mike. I mean, look at his centre-half teammate Rafa Varane. This guy has always been a world superstar, molded for greatness at an early age. I mean, Christ, during his awkward teenage years, he was playing under Jose Mourinho for Real Madrid. Maguire, he was on loan at Wigan, age 22. If this man was truly a budding world star, someone who would merit a nearly £100 million price tag, don't you think he'd have been in with a sniff of making Roy Hodgson's England squad for the 2014 World Cup? I mean, he was 21 years of age, and Phil Jones was in that England squad. No, instead, back in 2014, this guy was playing championship football for Sheffield United and watching the England games down the pub. And that summer, he was the subject of a £1 million bid from Wolves before signing for Hull, where weirdly, he actually made his Hull City debut in the Europa League. And then guess what? Didn't get to make his Premier League debut until 5 days before Christmas. That's how much little faith Steve Bruce had in him. So tell someone then that this unfashionable cheese omelette would one day captain Manchester United? Again, no! That's more wacky and unbelievable than the plot of Prison Break. Lads, that summer that he made the move to Hull, Bristol City wanted to buy him for £2.5 million. And this was the future of Man United? That £17 million move to Leicester in 2017. That was Maguire's level. Despite looking like an awkward-looking lump up the hills of ice, the guy is actually a silky ball-playing defender who, can't really defend to an elite level anyway. I mean, he's essentially the English David Luiz, although not as technically superb. Honestly, Luiz is another one. I honestly believe this man could have been a quality number 8 in midfield. No, not as a number 6. Number 8, the Fabregas role. I mean, there wasn't a defensive thought in his brain, but he was a samba baller who could pass. I honestly believe that was a wasted career. If coached correctly, Luiz could have been another Toni Kroos. I also want to say that as centre-half, Luiz wasn't horrible either. It was just he played for massive clubs like Chelsea, PSG and Arsenal. When really, if the guy didn't have the South American glamour on his name, if he was instead called David Lynch and grew up living next to a pizza shop in Plymouth, then as a centre-back, he played for Swansea or West Brom. Honestly, he was just Alfie Mawson in a wig. And similarly, Maguire, Leicester was his level. I mean, he could have just stayed there. And for the next 7 years, just being seen as a top player on Match of the Day. Honestly, lads, if Maguire was still at the King Power, Gary Lineker would probably cut his wife's hair to make her look like Maguire. Lads, beware the instant glow-ups. There should be no way Manchester United were paying £85 million for a guy who just 2 summers earlier was the subject of a £5 million bid from Middlesbrough. Everton were literally offered both Maguire and Andy Robertson from Hull in a £20 million deal and said no. Yeah, the Toffees went out and bought Michael Keane instead. Clearly, we can see now with their transfer scouts have all the intelligence of scrambled egg. That year, they also said no to Erling Haaland too. If Manchester and instead just bought Toby Alderweireld in 2018, I actually think that would have saved Maguire's career. He'd have continued to play at a quality level for Leicester and maybe help them win the FA Cup before maybe making a step up to Arsenal in 2021, where he'd have probably done pretty well. But Manchester United, it's too much. Varane was an absolute superstar from an early age, so putting him in the same room as a former scruffy Wigan defender, I mean, it's like in the X Factor, with Simon Cowell getting Beyonce to get up on stage and sing a duet with Claire from Primark. Yeah, someone's gonna look very out of place. I mean, that's Maguire, who used to have posters of Varane on his bedroom wall, and now he's asked to be his captain? He's probably too scared to sit next to him at lunch. I mean, what do they have to talk about? How is Varane supposed to relate to someone who used to be lower in the whole city pecking order than Steve Bruce's son? There were rumours this week that Maguire was on his way to Villa Park. Turns out they were completely fake and are probably just made up by some bored teenager on the internet, just so he wouldn't have to finish his maths homework. But Maguire to Villa, that is the transfer to make. Maguire needs to restore his reputation. I mean, right now, he spent his Christmas sitting in the Old Trafford stands, watching his manager pick a left back ahead of him at centre half. I know Maguire has since started in the 3-0 win over Bournemouth, but I mean, lads, I wouldn't get too excited about that big guy. So did Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Danny van de Beek. That was almost like Manchester United's version of Bring Your Kid to Work Day. Just an annual event for Erik ten Hag to just feel sorry for his forgotten first teamers that he's largely stuffed in a dustbin. Maguire is a player good enough to represent England. Every time he pulls on the 3 Lions shirt, he shouldn't be hearing boos from the crowd. This wouldn't be happening if he was still at Leicester City. It's only because he's under the spotlight of one of the biggest clubs on planet Earth. Maguire should always have just stayed in his lane. What if Phil Jagielka had joined Manchester United under David Moyes, instead of being this respected, solid British centre half who still plays for Stoke City in the Championship at 40 years of age? Oh no, he'd have been laughed out of Old Trafford and mostly compared to a scarecrow with wonky feet. Honestly, I could be here all day. I know Gary Cahill went on a great success at Chelsea, but he was lucky he was playing under serial winners like Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte. The guy was joining Chelsea just as they hit an incredibly successful era. Again, if that respected centre half had instead joined Manchester United under Moyes, he'd have just been seen as another Johnny Evans. I mean, Manchester United buying centre halves from Bolton? The fans would react to that as if their grandma had just brought them a cake she'd found in a local swimming pool. Moving to Manchester United, it is such a massive club, and the pressure brings the players in this country. I honestly believe it's almost impossible for defenders to survive. Christ, Daley Blind was viewed as a slow lump of meatloaf and was chased out of town back to the Eredivisie in 2018. Yeah, it's 5 years later, he's 32 and plays for Bayern Munich. Chris Smalling, often seen as a clumsy sausage roll, does Old Trafford's answer to Jar Jar Binks? Yeah, he's playing for Roma in Serie A. Even ugly ducklings like Matteo Darmian play for Inter Milan. Johnny Evans has lifted the FA Cup with Leicester. Even Patrice Evra was thrown out in a pile of recycling back in 2014. Yeah, a few months later, he was starting a Champions League final for Juventus. Being a defender during the darkest decade of Manchester United's recent history, it's borderline impossible. You've almost needed to be world-class like Varane to retain any form of dignity. I mean, do I really think that Luke Shaw has always been an inconsistent bird brain with the concentration of mushroom soup? No, I've always known there was a player in there. I mean, while at Southampton, he was tipped to be the next Gareth Bale, but his big mistake was moving to a Man United team in crisis. Chelsea wanted him at a £30 million deal. Less Jose Mourinho actually wanted to buy him, and Shaw was a boyhood Chelsea fan. So go there, replace Ashley Cole, and win the Premier League in your debut season. If Jose had got his hands on a developing Shaw when he was 19 years old, he would have honed and molded this guy into an actual top-class defender. And not only that, but then he could go and learn how to play left wing back and win your second Premier League title under Conte. The confidence that would be flowing through this boy's veins. 2 league titles for Chelsea at the age of 21, and think how much those managers would have developed his game. It's just, when Shaw finally got to work with Mourinho in 2017, he was already set in his ways as a stubborn turnip with no self-belief after Louis van Gaal basically called him fat. If Shaw had just made that move in 2014 to Stamford Bridge, I promise you, there would be no need for Ben Chilwell or Mark Cucurella. This guy would be a modern West London great, a Champions League winner with nearly 300 Chelsea games under his belt. But no, Manchester United broke Shaw's career. The spotlight of that club is so heavy. You can't even be spotted ordering a Pepsi at Pizza Hut without that winding up in the sun. You can't even tie your shoelaces outside on Summers without somebody ringing TMZ. Maguire, he needs out. The Aston Villa transfer might be dead in a ditch, but go somewhere else. Find yourself a mid-table Premier League club and just reinvent your career. Even Tottenham. Why can't Maguire play in a back three ahead of Eric Dyer? That would be a dream move for the guy. If I'm Maguire, I'm at Palace stage, where I'd be willing to join Brighton or Fulham. Honestly, there's no shame in it. I don't want to hear that Maguire is too proud. I'm sorry, Jonathan Woodgate was in your shoes. He was a Real Madrid disaster, and his ego might have thought, I'm not leaving unless I'm getting another Champions League club. No, he soaked it up and signed for Middlesbrough. And then he turned down and returned to Newcastle to go and join Tottenham. Listen, I know you might think that Manchester United captains don't just sign for a mid-table rubbish. Although, I mean, to be fair, when Roy Keane was sacked in 2005, he was having to turn down job offers from Wigan and West Brom. He was actually also offered a deal in Saudi Arabia with Al Ittihad. Yeah, this whole Ronaldo thing isn't new. That country have always been ready to pounce like a vulture on any megastar sacked at Old Trafford. To be fair, it wasn't all bad. He also received a 6-month deal from Real Madrid. Why he didn't take it, I have no earthly clue. Roy Keane could have ended his career playing with Raul, Ronaldo and Zidane. I mean, come on! But Maguire, I mean, again, Woodgate put his pride on hold. He went from playing with Sergio Ramos one week to Robert Huth the next. Maguire, you need to get out of the spotlight. Leave the pressures of Manchester United behind and just start again. This man should have his agent literally hounding the rest of the Premier League to go and buy his clients. He should be begging Daniel Levy on the phone, or even ringing with the boards of Leeds or West Ham. Even Nottingham Forest. Maguire, forget about your fat wages. Ozzy Maguire, just get out! Now I just sound like Jordan Peele. Anyway, this is what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Where do you think Maguire should go? What should he do? Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, as always. I'll talk to you in a while.